welcome back to another episode of Leyendas Productions. It is me, your host, Rusty. Welcome back. I know you were expecting a video in maybe a couple other months, but like I said, you will be getting a weekly upload now, since we will be dropping this new series called Highly Debated. Now, before we get started, hold up. Great performances on both cards, so we're going to be going over the David Benavidez versus Morrell Jr. fight, and then we're also going to be covering the Riot season UFC, call it whatever you want to call it, card. I really don't know what to call them these days, but let's start to get into it. Let me, as tradition, when we get into Highly Debated, we're going to have to do a little rip, just so, can't call it highly debated if no one's high on this show. So, and there you have it. Now I'm riding higher than David Benavidez is. So let's go ahead and start with the UFC Fight Night. Adesanya versus Imavov. Yep. Let's start right off the top, man. Let's not mess around. There's no way other than saying that Izzy got creased, right? I'm not even an Israel Adesanya fan, but that was hard to watch. We talked about it here before, where we were saying that if Izzy lost, he would kind of be thinking about, I didn't say retirement, I said relevancy. But to my surprise, lots of people online are talking about Izzy to retire. So I really don't know if that's gonna happen. Why am I wearing glasses? Let me take these bitches off. Much better. Now the reflection is not all over my face. Yeah, man. Izzy got stopped via KO at 30 seconds of the second round. And let me tell you, that first round, I thought Izzy was cooking. I thought that he was giving Imavov trouble. I can't show the highlights, but here's some photos right there. And I think that really he just ended up getting caught. I've seen some videos going around the internet talking about that Izzy tried having his Alex Pereira moment. I really don't know if that was the case. If that was the case, if like he, if he was like, oh, Alex did it, I want to do something like that, and then like he goes with that in his brain, in his mind to the fight. I don't think he's the type of guy to do that, but I could be wrong. Really a devastating way to lose a fight. That's not the way you want to be losing a fight. If you're Israel Adesanya and you want to be relevant, he was talking about putting on shows and showcasing his skills and the build up to the fight. And I thought he did that in the first round. Second round, the Frenchman came out and just blasted him into the fucking cage. And then, the rest was history. I thought that the stoppage was a little bit early. I don't think it was the worst stoppage by any means. I don't think it was the worst stoppage, but I will say that it wasn't like, I wasn't convinced he was done. I mean, you could just tell by Adesanya's reaction, but, kudos to Imavov not giving up on himself. I think a lot of people would have been discouraged after the way he started that first round. To say that you were expecting that would be a lie. This is a guy who had been stopped by Sean Strickland. We all know Sean is good at what Sean does, right? He'll stand there in front of you, put that pressure on, make you miss, teep kick you and jab you to death. But he won't hurt you the way Adesanya was expecting. The way Adesanya is expected to hurt you normally, right? He's a guy that puts his opponents away for the most part. He's not a big unanimous decision guy. And usually that's because of how lethal his offense is. But nonetheless, the headline of the night for the UFC Fight Night is that Izzy got knocked out in the second round, and now people are asking for his retirement. Personally, I think that's a little too soon. I don't want to see him get beat up per se, but in the way he lost, you do have to question his chin. There's no doubt in my mind that he has skills to be fighting. I'm not quite sure if fighting for the belt, but he could definitely be fighting for like a version of the BMF belt or something like that. I think he could do very well at something like that, unless his chin is broken. That's the only thing I'm worried about. If his chin is broken, then I think that he should really take a step back. He should really find a way to test that chin. I think one way is you're gonna have to have like a really hard sparring a couple months from now, right? Once he's quote unquote back, kind of similar to the Volk situation. You don't know if it's his chin or he really has declined in terms of skills. And if it's the latter, I hope that they step away from the sport, because they have they've done so much that if they started going down the Tony Ferguson route, then look how Tony Ferguson stands in people's memories these days, right? It's not like someone's like talking about Tony's highlights. The majority of the talk that comes from for Tony Ferguson, it's kind of more like you're kind of sad for the guy. You kind of wish he would retire, but that's neither here nor there. Moving on from the main event. And just let me just finish that off. I don't want to make this video too long, but I think Adesanya really has hit a major crossroads. If he wasn't at one before, he's definitely in the middle of it now, and he has to decide what he's going to be doing with the rest of his career. So, interesting moment in life for Israel Adesanya. While Imavov has an opportunity to even be at the footsteps of a belt opportunity, which is wild for me to even say, but after beating Izzy the way he did, I think it's definitely warranted. But is he gonna hold the belt? I have my doubts. I don't think he could do. His best chance is what he gave himself that night. So he's gonna have to do that every night. I don't think he has a particular skill set where you can say he's gonna shut somebody down. A guy like Khamzat or DDP, I think they eat him for breakfast just based on their overall skill level and experience level. But Luke Thomas was particularly talking about how his record has been about finishing people sooner rather than later as the skill level of the fighter has increased. So I think statistically speaking, he's doing it right. So that's what you want to see. It looks on paper like he's peaking. I particularly feel like he just landed one really good punch, and then the rest of it, he hits hard and caught Izzy the way he's been caught before. And maybe at this point, it's just a hole in Izzy's game plan and defense that he needs to address. But nonetheless, I think he's in a good position. And really, it's up to him where it goes from here. If he gets a couple of these more surprising stoppages, stops. The UFC is a crazy place, man. A year from now, he could be, the biggest attraction. So you never know. Let's move on to the co-main event, which was MVP versus the Pirate Shara Magmadov. MVP unanimous decision over the Pirate, 30-27, 30-27, 29-28. We spoke about it here where I really liked MVP as a dog, but really my questions were more about was he gonna do okay? Not only because of the weight, but because he's also 37 and his game plan is really based off coming in and out and being explosive and athletic. And at 37, you expect a guy that's that thin to start to slow down. Usually, the higher weight classes tend to go a little bit deeper into the age, but MVP nonetheless looked like, I wouldn't say fully vintage self because we didn't get the knockout, but you got flying knees, we got spinning kicks, we got spinning, like a back heel spinning kick, and it landed. So it's not like he was just doing this shit and it wasn't landing. And Shara, I think he demonstrated that. Before the fight started, I had texted a buddy of mine, Caesar. I texted him that my theory for MVP to win was going to be that because Shara has one eye, right, his depth perception is compromised. And if you can try it yourself, if you cover up one of your eyes, you realize that things appear like your brain has to calibrate differently to know how far away it is, right? Now, he's been blind for quite some time, so his brain has already most likely rewired to calculate the depth of items, right? Why is this important? Because the majority of his opponents had standed right in front of him. They weren't really opponents whose repertoire involved movement and speed. and the ability to just disappear after punching. So I'm sorry if it goes in or no. I can't make out if he's focusing or not focusing. Maybe because of my mic. But I try to hold the mic down here. Sorry, the dogs are about to bark. Enough. So his depth perception being compromised was important in this fight because MVP is a person who game plan involves him moving in and out in a linear movement. What that means is like this, right? He's like this constantly. He stays out here, pops right in, pops right back out. If you have one eye, if you don't have great depth perception, great timing, right? What's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? I move the mic out the way. What's gonna happen, right? What's gonna happen? What's gonna happen is that he's not gonna be able to get his game plan off because MVP is stifling the way that this guy is pretty much going about setting up his punches. I have to put it on here because I don't want my mic going. It looks like my camera's going in and out. But anyway, that's pretty much what I think was gonna be the major reason why MVP was going to win, because the popping in and out was going to make Chara not only be off on his timing, mess around when he got off and stuff like that. I think what also really hurt him was he only has one eye. And a guy like MVP could really expose that. As opposed to a guy, let's say, like Justin Gaethje, who's not known for moving around, but he's known for standing right in front of you, coming towards you, and really inflicting damage in that way in a more linear movement, one direction. Where MVP, he's a very slick, shifty fighter who will pop in and out and just, create chaos in a split of a second and then be right out. And he doesn't care about, landing more than one or two punches, calling that round and going along. So vintage performance by MVP. Truthfully speaking, I think there was a bit of a fraud check for Chara Bullet, and I think that moving forward for him, he's has some questions to answer because he hasn't even faced a wrestler yet, but he faced a puzzle, not necessarily the most explosive or most skilled UFC fighter there's going to be in the company, but he has faced a guy who is a puzzle that others have solved before, not only in the UFC, but other ways of competing, like bare knuckle boxing. And this guy was being touted hard. This guy was major, riding first class front row on the hype train. And MVP asked him to politely get up, move to the back of the train because he's now in the front. And gotta love it for MVP. He's stealing some of that hype, and I think it's well deserved. Alrighty, moving on. After that, we had Sergey Pavlovich versus Rosenstrike in a complete bar burner. It was absolutely boring. I forgot they were fighting after just being on my phone for a while. Not really much to say there, other than I think, what do you do with these guys? I think you should just cut them. I know it sounds rough, but like, what purpose do they serve other than just being stepping stones in the division? They have no chance of ever beating Tom Aspinall. They have no chance of beating John Jones even now. So really, I don't know. I think the heavyweight division has a lot of reflecting to do. These guys had an opportunity to leave one or the other behind, and they didn't seem interested. They didn't seem interested in like that opportunity. After that, we had Vinicius Oliveira defeats Said Nurmagomedov. Told y'all, Oliveira, that guy, I called it. That was another dog right there. Brazilian fighters are usually pretty good. They have some good jiu-jitsu for the most part. They normally are very good at, striking. They have really good Muay Thai. But give me 1 second here. So really what I expect from Oliveira is just non-stop, relentless action moving forward. I think the guy has a future in that division. Colin Usman is a little ahead of his time, but I like the energy. I like that he's calling his shot. After that, we had Adesanya. He beats Mike Davis by unanimous decision. Don't really know what happened with Mike Davis. When he showed up, he was really tired. We talked about how I've never seen this guy fight before. Pulled guard immediately in the first round, so I really don't know what he was thinking. I think that he looked tired. I wouldn't be surprised if he was injured coming into this fight. So I guess we'll find out as we move forward, but really, not a lot of questions were answered there. After that, we didn't cover any of those fights, so I'm not really going to talk about them. And I didn't see anything that was too particularly exciting, so I'm not too worried about that. But really, the biggest takeaway was Izzy being stopped, and really people calling for his retirement now. Don't necessarily know if that's justified. Let me know what you guys think. Personally, I'm not one to say that he should retire. I think he should find that out. Maybe down the line. I don't think that Izzy is damaged goods as many are saying. And this is coming as not an Izzy fan, so yeah. David Benavidez versus Morrell results. What a fight. What can you say? We'll start right off the top. David Benavidez versus David Morrell put on a hell of a fight. David Benavidez ended up putting on, I wouldn't say necessarily vintage in the sense of like he hurt his opponent, put him down, and then stopped him and hurt him and et cetera, but it was a vintage performance in the sense of like David Benavidez did what vintage David Benavidez is going to be looking like. I think you are seeing it now. He's in his prime now. Can he get better? I think he can, possibly, if he has a little bit of a better defense. But what a great performance by David Benavidez. I'm not the biggest fan of him personally, but in a sport and boxing sense, I think that it was a great performance, and really they both put on a I don't know if I want to say fight of the year candidate because we're kind of early, but it's going to be up there in terms of even for Benavidez's career, this has been his hardest match, I think. At times it looked like he was going to run over Morrell, and Morrell really has a world-class chin and a world-class heart. And you could just see that throughout the fight. He never gave up on himself, never stopped believing in himself, which is really important to become a world champion and stay relevant in that sport. And I think that, David Benavidez showed that he needs a bigger challenge. I think currently he finds himself in a position where Triple G was, where he's so good that he's kind of finding opponents is troubling for him right now. It's troublesome. And I think Benavidez and Bivol are of the elite of elite. Like, they're elite within elites. So I think that David Benavidez is looking to them as their ultimate test, if not Canelo. And I think, truthfully speaking, in terms of size, power, etc., I think that Benavidez and Bivol will be a more fair comparison to really test out where David is and how good he really is. Again, I think he is really good. I think he is a very skilled fighter. Do I think he's a monster? At 175, he's not looking like it as much as he did at 168. Part of that, I think, is because he's lost one of his top 3 advantages at 168 was his size and his ability to be able to punch anybody and hurt him at any given moment of the fight. Where in this fight, he found himself being backed up at moments, something we've never seen in a David Benavidez fight. So I found that very interesting that Morrell could do that. The fact that Morrell is not the slickest fighter and was standing in front of Benavidez was also a little bit... I think David's going to look at that and he's going to kick himself for not trying to be more crafty. And then again, I don't know if he could be crafty because I don't know if he has that in his repertoire. We just haven't seen enough. With that being said, with 11 fights only, I think David Morrell put on a great fight. I think that this fight was a showcasing of his potential. He's taking on a guy who's, polished his skills with only professionals from the moment he put the gloves on. So, you know, David Benavidez had that advantage of he knows how to win a fight in terms of price fighting. It's a very different ball game from amateurs, although I was reading online that Morrell's amateur career in the boxing scene is not what you traditionally think of when it comes to boxing in Cuba, because when you think of the Cuban boxing school, you're thinking of the Olympic boxing school, the Olympic system, where in this case, from my understanding, his experience came mostly from amateur fights within the amateur circuit of Cuba. Not to say it's not better possibly than, you know, other countries, or that it's not good, because I assume that the rejects of one of the most elite boxing programs will probably have still really good candidates, really good fighters, but that's neither here nor there, because at the end of the day, it was enough to present a challenge where David had to bite down. At moments he found himself backing up, at moments he found himself getting hurt. So I think that if this fight was 2 years from now and David Morrell had, like, you know, I think there's more room to grow for Morrell than there is for Benavidez. Benavidez is a complete fighter, full sense of the word. He can punch, he's got the speed, he's got the ring IQ, he's got defense. He showed some defense. He was making Morrell miss a lot, but then at the same time, Morrell's not necessarily a guy like Bivol where they put a lot of punches up and are more methodical. At times, Morrell was able to pressure Benavidez because of his size. So it's going to be interesting on how Benavidez deals with 175 and to see if he even stays there. Like, what does he do? 175, the two guys that are above him are Beterbiev and Bivol, and they're also on the tail end of their, you know, their careers. So like 2-3 years from now, they're not the same fighters whatsoever they are today or 2 years ago. Meanwhile, David still probably has at least like 3 years at his peak, maybe 5, depending on he gets his diet together. But, you know, who knows? Who knows? I don't fucking know. Definitely not me. But that was it for David Morrell. I thought the scorecards were a little bit wild, but overall, it was a great fight. I think they should do it again. I wouldn't even be surprised if they do it 3 times if Morrell wins on the second fight, because the first one was so good. But let's move on. Co-main event. That was the fight between... It's not Gary Russell. Was it? Oh no, it's Stephen Fulton versus Brandon Figueroa. 116 to 112, 116 to 112, 117 to 111. It was a unanimous decision. Just straight up just outboxed Brandon Figueroa, who at times just looked a little confused in what he was going to do this time around. I think his game plan was to... I really don't know what his game plan was. He came out here in the first couple rounds trying to outbox Stephen Fulton, and I think that trying to outbox a guy like Fulton is just normally not the answer unless you are a generational boxer. And Fulton is a guy who, you know, he's clearly lacking power, but he's not lacking any boxing ability other than that. Everything else other than power, Fulton is, you know, that guy. So I'm not surprised that at times he made it look easy, and then the second half of the fight, Brandon Figueroa tried to make it a little bit dirtier, trying to rough him up, but at the end, Stephen Fulton kind of cruised to a decision that's reflected by the scorecards, and then Brandon Figueroa has to go back to the game plan and decide whether what he's going to do is going to bulk up and move up a little bit. He has some height, so he could definitely move up. Maybe work on his power a little bit. Maybe work on his game plan. I thought that he could have put on a better fight, but oh well. Isaac Cruz versus Angel Fierro. What a fight! What can you say? I think that should have been the co-main event, and it should have been 12 rounds. And bro, that would have been one of the best boxing cards of the year. I don't know whose idea was it to make it 10 rounds, and not only 10 rounds, put Stephen Fulton and Brandon Figueroa. Stephen Fulton is a good talent. He's a great boxer, but not necessarily someone you want to put in between two massively action-packed fights. There was no doubt that Benavidez was going to be an action fight. No doubt whatsoever Cruz was going to be an action fight. The fact that, you know, Stephen Fulton and Brandon Figueroa are fighting as the co-main event, I think has to do more that there's a belt, and the first fight was such a good fight that people were kind of hoping for the second one to be the same. But, you know, Stephen Fulton's not the type of fighter who's going to come in the second time and do the same thing, because he's a lot smarter than that. So I'm not surprised that he came in there trying not to engage whatsoever on any type of macho stuff, and he just stuck straight to his boxing. Cruz did the decision, as he should, because he's the better boxer. But Isaac Cruz and Angel Fierro gave you a throwback, bro. At times it was low skills, at times it was high skills, but Angel Fierro really channels his inner, you know, Eric Terrible Morales as his homie, also from Tijuana. And Isaac Cruz, living up to his name of Pitbull Cruz, just a straight dog, straight, you know, just bites down on that mouthpiece, and dude just never stops throwing hard. He really doesn't know other than to throw hard. Like, that's what's wild to me. We saw him punch. We saw him jab. We saw him like bop, 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 and then like move around on his toes a little bit. At one point, I thought we were gonna see him actually box, like, you know, like Stephen Fulton or something. I'm like, what is going on? But you know, that's a lot more merit also to Angel Fierro, who was able to back up an opponent who normally doesn't ever back up, and the fact that he was able to get Pitbull Cruz to even like be hurt, staggered him a little bit after like hellish first 3 to 4 rounds where Pitbull was just trying to knock this man out. You know, Angel Fierro, I don't know how high his ceiling is, but I will say that, man, does that guy have a chin. He has will and skills as well. He was piecing up Isaac Cruz really nice at times, so I think there's potential there. How much, I'm not quite sure, but, you know, if he could put on a fight like that against a guy like Pitbull Cruz, if he takes that same type of energy against anybody else, I think he gives anyone a hard time, because he could dish it as well as take it. So, you know, I could see him going to a title shot, but we'll see. I mean, Pitbull Cruz also seemed like he gassed himself at the beginning, so could have been mismanagement of his stamina as well. So it could have been a different fight if he handled it a little differently. But then before that, we had Jesus Ramos defeating Jason Rosario, another fully action-packed fight where Rosario really, his only game plan was to put his hands up and hope that Ramos was going to gas himself, but that didn't end up happening. So what we got was Ramos just absolutely trying to destroy Rosario. And in the 8th round, the referee had to step in and stop the fight. I thought this was a really good card. All the fights were really good. Personally, in terms of entertainment, the Stephen Fulton versus Brandon Figueroa, I didn't even see it. I was on a phone call the entire time. I thought the fight was boring, but nonetheless, it was, you know, clearly a performance that has to be admired, for the sense of getting in a unanimous decision against an opponent that you have lost against. Stephen Fulton gets a feather in his cap for something like that. But in terms of entertainment, I'm not necessarily pleased with that fight there. But what else are you gonna do? You didn't know it was gonna go like that. You didn't know he was gonna pitch a no-hitter. But, you know, great card. Can't wait to see Benavidez and Morrell fight again. Not necessarily themselves, but I can't wait to see either fighter to fight again. And I think that if boxing keeps putting cards of this quality or better, this is good but not great, but of this quality or better, I think that the sport is very much on the way to, you know, coming back and possibly even taking over the UFC. But I don't know, man. I think boxing's holding on to some old things that they need to get rid of. But that's for another video. I think that's going to be a fun video to make, to see if boxing is really dead and how it could come back. I think it's more of a repackaging thing rather than the actual product. But we'll see that in the next video. And last but not least, let's go over for the picks for this week. Let's go. Because we have a UFC main event, baby. We have a pay-per-view time. We have UFC 312. That's that Chicago area code, baby. UFC 312. It just has a nice ring to it, does it not? We have DDP Duplessis versus Strickland 2. Now, in the first fight, I just rewatched it like a week ago. It was a really close fight because it was, it was a fight where it was fought at the Sean Strickland pace, and it was DDP finding a way to move past that impenetrable defense and line in the sand that Strickland puts in front of his opponents and they can't get past of. I think that DDP showcases problem-solving skills, and this time around, the thing is about Strickland, he's not going to come in and do something completely different. He's going to do the Philly shell. He's going to jab. He's going to teep kick. He's going to do, the very, very basic fundamentals really, really, really good. And if there's anything that they work on with this camp, it's possibly a shot that they're going to be looking for specifically against DDP. DDP tends to, do these windmill overhead punches. He just fights like a gorilla, bro. I really don't know what to say. DDP is just a massive individual who just wills his way. And that's not to say he's not skilled. His skills are there. It's just not the most traditionally delivered punches and or strikes, but it works. His takedowns, he falls on people's ankles and they fall. Dude's winning even when he doesn't want to win. And facing a guy like that who just has been on a roll, destroying everybody from Robert Whittaker, Izzy, and then Strickland. I just don't see how Strickland could, who did he? We just Sean Strickland fight last time. I don't know who he fought last time, but the odds are minus 195 for DDP and plus 165 for Sean Strickland. I'm honestly surprised. I thought people would have it a little more 50-50. But DDP is a force to be reckoned with. There's no denying that as of late, he's really been just, beating anyone and beating them at their own game. This guy. Come on, bro. Out of focus, gonna focus on him. Look at this fucking guy. Look at this. This is what I gotta deal with. But I think DDP will actually beat Sean Strickland, like I said. Sean Strickland, although he's a very skilled fighter, I don't think he has what's needed to beat a guy like DDP, which is relentless pressure. And I think you have to wrestle DDP. Just get him so gassed, because he's such a big guy, that your best bet is to bum rush him. And I think a guy like Khamzat could really test DDP in a different way than Sean Strickland can, because we've seen DDP fight a very clean, crisp striker like Adesanya and Sean Strickland, because Sean Strickland is not going to wrestle, and we've seen him just blank Robert Whittaker. So we need a new challenge. Sean Strickland beat Paulo Costa to earn himself this shot, and I thought it was a really good fight for Sean, but I don't see how he beats DDP. It was only a close fight because Sean's skill level in terms of just not letting people perform how they normally do. Does that make sense? It wasn't because he performed beyond what he normally does. He didn't have a performance of a lifetime. He didn't do anything like that. He did what Sean Strickland does. I think his Israel Adesanya performance was a lot better. It was a lot crispier than the DDP performance. He just made Izzy miss all the time, and that was wild to watch. Where in the DDP fight, he found himself trying to do something like that, but DDP with his big old just man has watermelons for hands, bro. What are you gonna do? And he just bops you over the head with that, and just like instant damage. And you can just see that when he rocks his opponents. Every time he hits somebody, it's impactful. And there goes my light. Now I look more brown, bro. But DDP, give me DDP on that. On the card, we have Tatiana Suarez. She's 11-0. She was really. Let me change it up a little bit because I'm a little too dark. Tatiana Suarez. Honestly, I forgot about her. She beat some good people. She ended up being stifled by injuries. So really what she's trying to do is, I can't believe she has a title fight with 11 fights. I can't really recall the last time I saw her fight, but the odds are even, dead even, -110 for both of them. So Vegas, you know the saying, right? The house never loses, so Vegas tends to be right most of the time. So if they have it even, then it must really be even. Personally, Zhang Weili hasn't shown any slowing down, and honestly, she's only been getting better. So I'm expecting her to just destroy this chick, but I could be wrong. Give me Zhang Weili. Tatiana Suarez could be a dog, I think, but I'm not that convinced, bro. Sean Strickland, on the other hand, I think he's a sleeper dog pick. But they're only giving you 165, so I don't know. I'm not putting money on Sean Strickland. Then we have Justin Tafa fighting Talisson Texeira. Justin Tafa, man, can that guy hit? Give me a Justin Tafa KO. I like that one. I believe he's not even the favorite. He is the favorite. No, he's not the favorite. He's plus 130, but I like him as a dog over Texeira. Texeira is 7-0, but Justin Tafa can't count a guy out who can hit that hard. And, dude's always going to be in a fight when he can hit like that. Then we have Jimmy Crute, not familiar with him. Rodolfo Bellato, not familiar with him. Jake Matthews versus Francisco Prado. I've seen Prado before. Let's see. I've seen Prado before, but I don't know. Usually I don't pay that much attention towards the bottom of the fight. I've kind of been out of it because of the whole wedding thing. I'm starting to jump back into watching full cards and everything, trying to keep up with all the talent. But those are my picks, and that is my reactions for the week. Stay tuned for next week when I will drop another episode, possibly on Monday or Sunday. That is what I'm going for, possibly Sundays, depending on how much editing I have to do. But if anything, I'll be uploading on Monday nights. But this is episode 2 of Highly Debated, and my picks for 312, UFC 312 is give me DDP, give me Sean Weili, and if they're giving you even money on Sean Weili, bro, you gotta take that. Tatiana Suarez might be I haven't seen her fight in a while, but I've seen Sean Weili just, man, that girl could fight. How can you even bet against her? I don't know. Justin Tafa, give me the Justin Tafa KO, even though he's not the favorite. Those big boys always rock. Bro, Texeira doesn't even have like a fighter image. You see that? Hilarious. And then Jimmy Crute or Rodolfo Bellato. I'm telling you, the Brazilians, they're kind of like trying to come back on the top of the UFC. They have really good MMA. And then Francisco Prado, give me Prado on that one as well. On the prelims, I don't see anyone I recognize, so I'm not going to go over that. Early prelims, likewise. But that's pretty much it. We'll check in with you next week. I hope you like this. Like, share, and subscribe if you do. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the Benavidez Morrell fight, what you thought of Israel Adesanya. Should he quit? Should he not quit? Should he, go back to the drawing board? Or is he being Tony Ferguson? Is he going down the Tony Ferguson route? And we don't want to see that. Personally, he beat my man Alex Pereira, so I should be rejoicing right now, because he's facing some troubles in his career. But honestly, I'm not that type of person. I don't wish him any no ill will toward Israel Adesanya, and I don't want to see a guy, who's been at the top of his career just completely be destroyed. And then, it's never good when you get knocked out. Thankfully, he wasn't asleep, but he did get stopped. And, we'll see where he goes from there. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you want me to cover. Let me know what you think, just personal feedback of overall this series. I'm working on the Al Heyman video that should be coming out very soon. That's going to be a little bit different from this. As you can tell, we're on the couch. We're just chilling, kicking back. This is a little more relaxed, where we'll be returning more to video essays and being more concise with our thoughts, and not just ripping off the top with investigative pieces / essay videos and that format. But anyways, catch y'all next week. Peace.